Okay, although I participated in Fiverr at the start, after some months, let's say 3 or 4 months, I found that in the PPP you need to be really concentrated, and that is, let's say, really challenging. And myself, I'm also the coordinator of the project Infinity. Also, the capacity building is the second part that I want to talk about. Really, there's one part of the PPP that is going not only to, let's say, to the software components, but really going to the regions and to the national part that is about the infrastructures. So what we want in Infinity, I explained the unique enablers, what we want is to really take from the different infrastructures and from the different regional infrastructures, local infrastructures, to connect to this environment of services. As was expressed by George in the last presentation, there's one of the parts that is really important in providing the information. This Infinity and the continuation called Sci-Fi, these are the two projects that are dealing with infrastructures. What's available about the European infrastructures is what we call Infinity. And now we are going to use it in a project called Sci-Fi. I presented in the generic enablers about the oil, but the oil is about only testing. What we want is to have a production environment and pan-European infrastructure where all the generic enablers will be installed, up, running, and giving a good service. So let's say that this is Infinity. I'm not going to talk much about the partners, but the important part is that to put the infrastructure owners and organization in Europe to develop future internet applications on top of these infrastructures. So what we need is to really have these infrastructures in the forefront that are visible, accessible, and usable from a unique access point, and support this experiment and also the development and uptake. The uptake, as I said, is key. I'm not going to enter much into the details of Infinity, but what we have is we are collecting the information and we are having a common taxonomy across Europe for the infrastructures. That means that any infrastructure owners that have a little or a big infrastructure, for example, 2 different smart cities that can serve through a different perspective, but with a common taxonomy, the same information about how they can realize the future internet applications. We are analyzing and also we are developing a roadmap about the future investments in Europe. This roadmap is some that we are talking also with the regions, as was said about the smart specialization. So how the different regions in Europe should invest in the future, not only for infrastructure like roads. ICT infrastructures are key for the development of the regions. And what we are doing is also to communicate all of this with a repository of infrastructures in Europe and through a roadmap. These are the 2 main points that we are now working on. Okay, we have contacted about 400 infrastructures in Europe, gather and profile this information of the different infrastructures, local, regional, and national, not only about the technical, but also the social and economical value of these infrastructures, so different domains. And we have this common decision framework to define these infrastructures. We are encouraging and supporting interaction and collaboration and conducting an initial analysis of this data towards this delivery of the future internet infrastructure roadmap. What we are doing is bringing and bridging this demand and offer side for the future internet with the public services communication and really with end users in this process of innovation. In Infinity, it is the capacity building, number 1. This is let's say, the past. We contacted, we have a repository, there's a second release, a follow-on survey, and what we are doing is the analysis for the future internet adoption to this infrastructure. We have in CP, our repository, around 150 infrastructures profiled, and we are growing now. So in the first one, we had 120 infrastructures with classification and in the portal. And what we have here is the collection and more data that we are having. So these 150 infrastructures, 70 of them are really complete with actual use cases, explanation on what we are doing. And really, now we are trying to find users for these infrastructures. That means that much of these infrastructures now, although they know how future internet can be implemented there, although they have users, they need to find some developers to run applications on top of them to really provide innovative services to the user of these infrastructures. For example, the smart city. I don't want to enter so much detail about these are the different technical specifications that we have in our common taxonomy of the infrastructures. And this is about how we have communicated to the different channels. So we have private infrastructures, and a mix of them. So all of this is in a repository called CP. CP is about the European repository of infrastructures. Here we have, let's say that some of 160 infrastructure, from 130 to 150 are going to publish next week the 150 in our portal. We are having more and more information here. So really, in this portal, we have, for example, now we are in Portugal, we have many Portuguese infrastructures that are registered, some cities, some experimentation labs, and also if you know infrastructure owners that want to join these infrastructures, please let them know about the repository, give my contact, and I'm really, really happy to incorporate them to the CP. And if you know users wanting to use this infrastructure, that we can help them to understand how they can participate in the future of internet and accessing services from different infrastructures, from different applications. Okay, so why is important to future internet infrastructure? First, because it can help you as, okay, these are different testimonies, that is a very English way of doing this. And really, they are finding new experiments for the client. So an infrastructure owner is finding a new experiment that they can offer to the client. Or, for example, comfort enough, they want to attract more users in terms of developers and give feedback that more people is interested in joining and more developers are interested in developing on top of this. For example, in Atlantic Labs, they're running more about, this is a data center, they're running about energy networks data, and they are happy to know also other infrastructures that are connected to them. Then some people from the commission that, okay, it seems that or they are happy, or at least they want to support us, that also they provided some good comments about this, accelerate this commercial impact and capitalize the investments quicker. If you know the direction, is much better than going and trying to find where's your cheese than someone telling you where it is. And here, just very fast, you can find in the CP repository, you can navigate and you can find some information that is there, especially about the Portuguese regional and local infrastructures. And as we say, we have been discussing with some of the infrastructure owners, and they are happy to know how to really classify and how different infrastructures can be connected. So if the internet connection in the future internet is working, then we are able to access the portal. And okay, so let's push a bit. Okay, so let's wait a bit until the portal is coming, but okay, you can find some information about it. Okay, before showing you CP, I'm going to explain you how to support the phase 3. So if you are coming to the phase 3 and you have an application, you have an experiment, you have a little infrastructure, and you want to know how to really participate in this phase 3. First of all, Infinity is working 1 year more. I can support the experimentation and help you in finding your infrastructure and you're an application developer or other infrastructure or other developers. Also, we have been analyzing which constraints you may find about your technical experimentation and also about the sustainability of the different infrastructures and experimentation, because we have been working in examining exactly this point. What is important is that to match an application with an infrastructure is not so easy. In our CP repository, we'll show you how to do it, but also Infinity can help you directly. You can contact us. We are really, 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 really happy to support you. It's in contact with more than 400 infrastructures. We have only 150 because some of them don't want to publish their data because they are more, let's say, private-oriented, or they want to keep their own service. All the 150 is because they are open to experimentation, but perhaps you want to have your own private infrastructure. And also, we are developing a federation. The federation is called in sci-fi, that I will explain later. And we are trying to expand more on this infrastructure to create a pan-European federated infrastructure. Also, as I say, we have direct contacts. We are engaging with infrastructure experimenters and users. So if you want, I'm really, really happy to help you. So okay, now let me navigate a bit with CP. So CP is the portal of the European infrastructure. Now it's getting more and more famous, so the visits have increased 4 times in less than 6 months, so I think that we are having a good momentum. And here you can find in the map different infrastructures. For example, you can see that in this area, in Portugal, we can find not so many infrastructures. But, for example, there's one that is the amazing, that is a Vice Mobile Wireless Network Playground. And here there are 2 infrastructures. For example, the one about, I understand, is broadband, and this is the second one. So if you want to check for information, you only need to access. And you find the information about this infrastructure. So you have the contact, the website, the votes. So that means that one experimenter have used this infrastructure to experiment. And here you can find what it's about. Here in the details, you can find about, okay, this is a survey we are conducting. Are you interested in this infrastructure? Of course, yes. Which is your affiliation? We are an SME. Okay. And, okay, here you can find, let's say, the detailed information about the infrastructure. So you have here more, and you have the details about the societal information. Sorry, because mouse is not controlled. You can have the economic perspective and also the technical perspective. For example, the economical is about the openness of this infrastructure. So now we will check, it's government funded and it's free to use. That is very good. And the technical perspective, for example, is about what they have. They have a Wi-Fi network, so the information about the nodes and the technical standards, the year of operation, and different information we can try to find. Here, you can also try to, an infrastructure to find your own infrastructure. You can check here and say, okay, what I want is to really find the type of infrastructure. So what I want is to find all the public sector, I don't know, all the, let's go to the local infrastructure, in country, let's say, I don't know. In Afghanistan, there are not infrastructures yet, sorry. But for example, let's take the example in Spain, because I'm from Spain. That's the only reason why. And here you can find different infrastructures that are in Spain about the categories that we have selected. Here, you can find, this is a city, all of this is about local, and here you can find the information you may want. Okay, so here I encourage you to go to cp.eu, where you can access and navigate. Okay, so last but not least, let me give a new project overview, and then we go to the discussion that I think that this is perhaps a bit, how to say, dense, really dense for a session. The capacity building phase 2. In Infinity, we're defining, we're funding infrastructures, cataloging, and we are implementing pan-European infrastructure by connecting all of them and adopting some, not enablers, but let's say infrastructure adapters to adapt the capacity of different infrastructures to the FIPVP capabilities. So Sci-Fi is just about, has about started 15 days ago, and it's really to provide in 5 initial nodes plus up to 10 more nodes in the second year, let's say different infrastructure connected like a cloud to provide the real provision of the service of fiber to the third phase. Fiber, as I said, the oil is only a testbed, that's all, but this is also providing quality of service. All the enablers will be installed. The infrastructures will be adapted really to the capabilities of the enablers. Also is providing a marketplace of the infrastructures. And what we want is that the different SMEs, developers, can really deploy their applications using the local infrastructure they can have in their country. So there will be different nodes with different geographical distribution, and what we want is to really to have all of them collocated and working in a federated manner. As I said, is to support different environments, to federate, and one of the targets in the commercial target is about future European smart cities. With Sci-Fi, what we want is also to provide service to many cities, providing a really strong service as if they were really a local infrastructure, but one a European one acting as a local with powerful facilities. And okay, we have these infrastructure operators, the demand, entrepreneurs and users, and the FI developers as the 3 pillars of Sci-Fi. So we are developing this federation service. We are doing the adaptation, upgrading, and validation of the infrastructures before putting them into operation. And this is about this core backbone for a real productive production environment. These 5 initial nodes, as I said, another opportunity can be for the open call that will happen at the end of this year. If any, let's say, imagine Portuguese strong infrastructures that want to join the federation, there's an open call with 2.8 million euros for up to 10 infrastructures that wants to adapt themselves to our federation. We will provide the tools, we will provide the software, we will provide the requirements, we will provide the different handbooks. What they only need is to provide an infrastructure and to have the capability and the willingness to do that. So anyone that you know, spread the word, and we are really happy that any Portuguese infrastructure can be, for example, at the NREN, the National Research Network, or any other that wants to participate and provide service for the Portuguese developers. For example, in Spain, we have a node in Rediris in Seville, the Imagine Lab in Paris, in Berlin is Deutsche Telekom Fraunhofer Infrastructure, the data center, Trentino Networks with ICT Lab, and there is Hinet and REN. And we are going to enlarge it in the second year for the maximum geographical coverage as possible. We said up to 10, but okay, if with the money we can find more than 10, we will be more than happy. And of course, it is ensuring that the connection to the different infrastructures and developers is ensured with a degree of quality of service that is providing the necessities of the developers. Okay, perhaps this is too much technical, perhaps, as I said, this information, you can find it in the FIPVP website. Okay, this will be available as components after the program. Also, all Sci-Fi is open source. All is open source, so even in the future for the infrastructure that want to adapt themselves, they can install our own enabler, our own, let's say, adapters. And the candidates for the exploitation, I say, smart city, but there are many. And what we want is here in the firmware development to have, before the call of the third phase, to have the Sci-Fi pan-European infrastructure first instantiation ready for supporting the experimentation. Okay, this is the plan as was presented. Core backbone, adapters development, federation operation, and for the next ones, as you can see here, we'll have our own final work plan ready. So thanks. I know this presentation, sorry, but cannot be less technical and cannot be reduced, but what is important, and really let me stress the messages. We are going to provide a pan-European infrastructure by connecting what we have now. We are going to have it federated. We are going to have a real service that works, software that works, that is spyware. There are different use cases, and there's lots of real opportunities for the developers, for the SMEs, and for anyone that wants to really promote their applications, not starting from scratch, but starting from the FI PPP. So thank you very much, and we can go to the next step.